As you know, my name is Stephen Round, and you're probably watching this video because you're familiar with my resignation video that I did approximately a month ago. There are a few reasons why I'm doing this video. One is to thank everybody for the immense amount of support that I've gotten from people who have listened to the video, from my friends, from my family. 99% saying that I did the right thing. 1% saying, well, maybe I shouldn't have left the kids, maybe I should have stuck it out. I just want to assure those people that your feelings are valid. I do worry about the kids that I left. I've offered to continue tutoring those children free of charge on a Saturday. I've talked to a couple of the parents, and if they take me up on it, I will continue working with them. The rest of the children, as long as they get a new sub that's competent and conscientious, I'm sure they'll do just fine. But the thing that struck me today was that I was watching the news and learning about Lance Armstrong and how he's coming clean with his past history, and I was just thinking about how many people trusted him all these years and how many people believed him. And I was drawing kind of a comparison between what people are doing for me by watching this video and saying, wow, here's this guy that's leaving the school system, and he looks and sounds like he's sincere, so I'm going to put my trust in him. Today you never know who you can trust, and I just want you to know that you can trust me. I have no ulterior motives, okay? I'm not trying to make money. It's not a scam. I don't have anything to hide that I can think of. I've done a lot of things in my life, and most of them were honest. I would say all of them were honest. As a kid, I used to shovel snow and do yard work, getting into the work world. I taught guitar when I was in high school. When I was in college, I did some lifeguarding. I did some camp counseling. I was a steel worker. I did custodial work, landscaping, many odd jobs, mechanical work on cars. After I graduated from college, there were no jobs available, even though I had my degree in secondary education, English specialty. There were no jobs. My wife and I actually were both unemployed teachers at the time, and we ended up getting into manufacturing of jewelry. And Rhode Island being the jewelry capital of the world, things were good for a while. I worked with her father for about, 5 or 10 years, and then decided to go off on my own. Set up my own business where I manufactured jewelry, designed the products themselves, did the work, advertised them by mail order, fulfilled the orders, and made quite a good living for the duration. Just about all of the 80s and the early 90s were very good. Provided a good living for me, and allowed my wife to stay home and raise our 4 kids for the most part. She worked part-time, but things were good. But what happened in the early 90s was the credit union crisis in Rhode Island, where thousands of people lost their money. The money was tied up because the governor closed down the credit unions, and it remained tied up. And my business money was tied up and not accessible. Business was bad because there was an economic slowdown at the time. So forces conspired to make me close the business. And I went through a tough time. I was worried about my children being able to continue paying my mortgage and sending them to the private Catholic schools where they were going to, where they were attending. So it was tough. And my wife and I sat down and soul searched and tried to figure out what I should do with the rest of my life. And kind of came to the conclusion that I loved working with little kids, not high school students, but little ones. You know, we had raised 4 children, and I think that I was a good father. I love working with them. I have a lot of patience with kids. So anyway, one thing ran to another, and I decided to go back and get my elementary certification. So I went back to Rick. I had to take about 6 courses to get recertified. I had to spend money to get recertified. I had no income. It was tough. It was very tough for a while. My wife had to go back to school to teach because we needed the income. So she became a teacher in Catholic school. She also moved her way up to be a principal of the Catholic school, mainly because we needed the extra income. They were not easy days. They were not easy days. And when I finally did get certified, there were no teaching jobs jumping out at me. At that time, I was in my 40s. And, you know, there just were no teaching jobs. So I ended up running into a Catholic school principal. I said, gee, I have a first grade position that you could take. And I looked into it and took that position. The pay scale was very low, to say the least, less than $15,000, but I had to take something, so I did. And I stayed there for 2 years. It was a great faculty. The children were wonderful. The teaching experiences were great, but I needed more money. And after 2 years there, I decided to bite the bullet and go into the public school system as a substitute. Now, many people don't realize that when you go in as a day-to-day substitute, the top pay at the time was about $70 a day, but most districts were paying $60 a day. And needless to say, you're not making much of a living on $60 a day, but this is what teachers had to do just to get their name out there and into the system. So I did that. After 2 years, a good friend of mine, Nancy Owen, mentioned to me that she was at a new school that had been formed in Providence, she being the principal, and that it was very new, very different from anything else that was going on in Providence, and that was Charles Fort's Academy. They had a lot of funding. They had money coming in from the Gates Foundation. They had a lot of brand new technology, all new computers, beautiful computer room, computer teacher. Had a grant from Disney to turn the school into an inquiry-based learning project. The ultimate goal being to make it a living museum. And that's another story we can get into. I've got a website that shows some of what my class did at that time. But it was a great experience, and it lasted for about, I'd say 2 or 3 years, maybe 4, but No Child Left Behind came along. And for one reason or another, Nancy, being as talented as she was required to go into another failing school. And the vice principal, or the assistant principal that worked under Nancy Owen, Laurie Hughes, took over. And her leadership style was much different. The whole climate of the school changed. And at the same time, No Child Left Behind was taking effect. So there were a number of different problems coming out of that. A lot of things that teachers did not like, but we did. realizing that No Child Left Behind had good intent, and even reluctantly we were willing to try new things to see if that would help our kids. What I'll have to do is break this up and go into those things in the next video. So thank you for listening.